Let's go now to join Alan Quinlan. Alan, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, lads. Yeah, I'm only up probably 26 or 7 hours at this stage now, but I'm not too bad. I'm wearing Paul O'Connell's jacket, his shoes, and his jumper as well, because my bags are somewhere over the Pacific, I think, at this stage.
And are you the same size still these days?
Well, I'm fitting clothes. The jacket is kind of nice and neat on me anyway, so and the shoes are about 2 or 3 sizes too big anyway. But they did the job today. I had to do some interviews and some press stuff today, so went to the Irish training and had a chat with Johnny Sexton, and I was at the New Zealand presser this morning as well. So they're full of compliments, Ger, for Ireland, which makes me worried. It's unbelievable. Every one of them are saying Ireland are great and they're the best team in the world. And Aaron Smith, I think, said at one stage it's the ultimate challenge, and it doesn't get any bigger than Ireland coming to New Zealand. So big trouble ahead.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Let's hear what Andy Farrell had to say. You said you were at the New Zealand press conference. I'll ask you about that in a minute. But here's Andy Farrell talking about the team selection. We'll, if anybody doesn't know the team, we'll get to it immediately after this. Here's what Andy Farrell had to say this morning.
We've had a great meeting this morning of learnings with the test side and the side from last night, and feeding back to one another, and their understanding of what happened out there, and good learnings from the test team of what to expect and how they're going to implement those changes, etc., through the group. So that's what it's all about, this tour, you know, giving guys experience you don't know until you know, and it's great to have the other boys watching them have got the backs and really keen on making sure that they help them along their journey as well.
And in terms of the All Black team, your impressions of that side and what you're expecting from them?
Pretty good side. I know they've 1 or 2 injuries, and obviously so have we. But at the same time, I think they could pick 4 teams in New Zealand, and they will be unbelievably hard to compete against. So we're under no illusions what we're up against at the weekend. And like I've said to you before, any type of performance that we've had before where we've managed to get over the line, that won't do this weekend, I'm sure about that.
So the Ireland team has been named, and it's fairly much what we expected, I think, with maybe a little bit of... I got through it. Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, Tadhg Furlong front row. Tadhg Byrne is in the second row, as we expected, after Henderson being sent home with the injury, or certainly out of the squad with the injury. Tadhg Byrne and James Ryan in the second row. Peter O'Mahony at 6, Josh van der Fleer at 7, Caelan Doris at 8. It's Gibson Park and Sexton at half-back, and then it's Henshaw and Ringrose in the centre. The wings are James Lowe and Keith Earls, and Hugo Keenan is a full-back. Dave Heffernan, Finlay Beelum. Cian Healy's named on the bench. We'll see if that actually comes through. If he's fit enough to take his place, that'd be great. Kieran Treadwell, incredible kind of comeback for Treadwell over the last 12, 14 months to be named on the bench for the first test in New Zealand. Jack Conan, Conor Murray, Joey Carberry and Bundy Aki, after captaining the side yesterday, is on the bench as well. So what's your take on the team there, Alan?
Yeah, there's no real surprises, is there? I think it's a shame that Henderson is out, I think, because I think his physical presence would have helped. I think whether he would have started or whether Andy Farrell would have picked Tadhg Byrne to start it. But I just think Henderson not being there just takes away a little bit of that physicality that we need. Obviously, Peter O'Mahony gets the nod at 6, and Jack Conan is kind of the one to lose out again. You know, we know what Peter O'Mahony brings, his strengths, and I think the decision is obviously made around, that line-out presence that he has, and probably that aggression that they're hoping he'll bring. Jack Conan won't want to, be labelled as now a player off the bench and an impactor, but a player to come off the bench as well. So there's very little between any of the three there in the back row, and but Keith Earls coming in on the wing. I think Mac Hansen would have started there if he wasn't sick with COVID. So there's no real surprises. I think you mentioned Cian Healy there and the injury he got in that Maori game, which looked horrendous. It looked like he was not alone was his match over, but this tour was possibly over for him. But I believe he came back in one of those moon boots after the game and walked into the hotel fine, took it off, walked around, and was feeling a lot better this morning. I saw him walking down to the gym here earlier in the day, and he seems to have made a miraculous recovery, which shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, because he's fairly resilient and freakish in his physique, and so he's obviously made a recovery, and I think that will be a boost to him. But other than that, there's no real surprises. I think obviously Carberry, Murray, Bundy, Aki off the bench, they'll be needed. The bench will certainly be needed this week, and it's going to be a daunting task for him, because when you look at the New Zealand team, it's kind of formidable, and a lot of those players are in good form this year in Super Rugby. So from an Irish point of view, I think Andy Farrell has said it there himself. They've got to find something really special to try and get a win here, because I really believe that there's going to be a very aggressive, determined reaction from New Zealand, given what happened last November when Ireland beat them and then France beat them. And I think they were under all sorts of criticism and pressure back here in New Zealand. You can feel it, today, talking to other journalists, talking about the coaching setup for the All Blacks and the pressure this series is bringing on them if they don't get positive results. So Ireland are going to really have to deal with that, and that's going to be a real kind of test for them physically and mentally on Saturday.
Has the result from the Maori game just softened all of the Ireland rugby fans' cough a little bit, to the point where we were like, we might win one of these tests now? It's like, hang on a second, they're like their scratch team versus our second team, and they kind of annihilated us. And the skill that they showed is the main takeaway. So everybody has that skill.
To be fair, yeah, no, I agree that it just puts things in perspective that they have a lot of X factor players, Jared, that can step, that can just accelerate, that can do special things, and if you give them time and space, they show that in the Maori game. If you're not organised defensively and as a collective unit, I think Ireland have got to be, whether it's the team to play the Maoris or the team that's going to play the test match, they've got to collectively be very tight and organised, particularly in defence, because if you run up on guys and one Irish player on a kick chase, they can just step you no matter who you are. You've got to have kind of guys either side of you and defend really well. And I think there was mistakes in that Maori game that some of those players will have to learn, and they had to learn the hard way, that you've got to stay connected in defence, and they'll punish you. And to be fair, there's a lot of those Maori players are pushing for All Black selection. There's some of them, TJ Paranara and Brad Weber, they've got a lot of caps for the All Blacks. There's a number of young players that could end up playing in this series because they're that close to the All Blacks team, and they've probably 18 weeks of Super Rugby as well. So they got it right. They got their cohesion right last night, and they exposed some frailties in the Irish players, and it was a harsh lesson for them. I think Andy Farrell had said that it was a harsh lesson. So to answer the original question, it does put things in perspective. No matter what team you put out against the Maoris or against New Zealand, if you're not on the money and you're not physically, mentally and collectively right for it, you could be really severely punished. And I think it is a little bit of a wake-up call to Saturday. What can happen if you're not ready for it? And I think it's easy saying be mentally ready, but you've got to be physically ready, because I think if you remember the game after Chicago in 2016 when New Zealand came to Dublin, and it was the Sam Cane shoulder on Robbie Henshaw. It was the Fekitoa swinging arm on Zebo.
2 red cards, by the way. Today, 2 red cards, you would hope.
Definite red cards. But you remember the brutal, kind of aggressive, nasty kind of response. I think there could be an element to that on Saturday. So Ireland have got to go toe to toe and not let New Zealand intimidate them. Be really, really physical and in their faces. And if there's a fight to happen, stand toe to toe and be right in their faces. And but look, it's a daunting task, isn't it? They haven't lost in Eden Park since 1994, so their record there is unbelievable. So Ireland are going to have to do something special. But there's a number of Irish players who've experienced beating the All Blacks, and you've got to try and take something from that. Not get complacent and think that, oh God, it can happen again. But take the positive memories from that as well. But I think they'll be very alert. And I felt that at Irish training today, that they're very, very much aware of the reaction they're going to get. And it'll be really interesting to see how they cope and what they bring to the game themselves, Ireland.
It's one of the big questions from yesterday, actually, regarding Ireland's depth once again, because you talk about those Maori players who are pushing for All Black selection. Well, all of those Ireland players are pushing for Ireland selection. And if you, granted, get carried away and just look at yesterday in isolation, those players who are pushing for the All Blacks are much better than those players pushing for Ireland. That really Ireland, and over the course of the next 18 months, one of the biggest factors is going to be how lucky Ireland get with injuries, because they can only go so deep into the depth chart. Yeah,
correct. And that is the reality. Jeremy Loughman doesn't start all the time for Munster. He started last night. Dave Heffernan, hasn't been playing with Ireland regularly. Tom O'Toole, Gavin Coombs, Nick Timoney, these guys, Treadwell, they need more game time. They need to be out on the field at international level and see the difference, experience it, learn from it. You've less time and space in international rugby than you do with your provinces. The pace, the speed of the game, you get punished for mistakes more. Kieran Frawley at 10. He needs, if he's going to be considered an option at 10 going forward, he needs more time there. So James Hume, he's had a great season for Ulster, but it was a difficult night as well for him last night. He had moments in the game and picked up a nasty injury himself. So I think a lot of those players, they've probably 14 months now before a World Cup, and Andy Farrell, that's a challenge. He's got to try and find a blend now of getting more depth in some of those positions. But it's the same as all the other international coaches. I think particularly, Scotland, Wales, England, they're all trying to get depth in their squads. Some are, in better positions. Look at South Africa, the depth they have, and they seem to be in a really good place. So that's the key for Andy Farrell, is to try and improve that depth and expose those players. And some guys will fall away, and some younger players may come through. I think someone like Ryan Baird as well.
Well, it's unfortunate Ryan Baird hasn't actually grabbed a place in this team just yet, because it looks like hopefully he's going to reach. Yeah,
he's a quality player, and Joe McCarthy is as well, and I think they will go on to have long international careers. And but as many as though you want as many players on the fringes to try and start putting pressure on the starters. And how long have we spoke, Ger, about the 10 slot? 9 and 10. Well, Gibson Park has come in the last kind of 2 years and been brilliant there, but we still have a problem at 10 if Sexton gets injured.
Well, I was just getting to that, right? So the lads were talking yesterday with Keith Wood almost talking with Keith Wood after the show yesterday, and after the game rather, and they just listed off the injuries that have happened on this tour in a week. And if you think about that and the possibility of the same number of injuries happening in a World Cup cycle, which is very likely, we are playing 2 very serious tests in the pool stages of the World Cup. Like, you need 45 players really who are at international quality. You can't bank on the 30 odd who are named in the squad, whatever the number is, to be the players who bring you through, barring some kind of weird freak, which never happens. Certainly has never been something that has happened to us. So the team who plays in the 3rd test may well end up being the same team that starts a World Cup quarter-final if we make it there, and it could be completely injury depleted. So we just need to get used to that, really, and as you say, build that depth through this. With that in mind, right, and having seen the decimation already after 1 game and 2 training sessions, or however number of training sessions it is, what does success look like now from this series?
just on the injuries, you go back to 2015, you think of Argentina in that quarterfinal, Paul O'Connell, Sean O'Brien, Tommy Bowe.
O'Brien was
Johnny
suspended.
Sexton.
O'Brien was suspended.
Yeah, well, he was gone. He was
yeah.
gone. Okay.
But that was his own doing, you know, like he had control over that, like, so, yeah.
Yeah, I know, but we're talking about getting depth. We had 5 of our starters gone out of the team, and it told in that Argentina game. So, you know, there's no quick fix solution here. Andy Farrell has to look at development of these players, getting more game time with their provinces, getting more senior roles with the provinces, and looking at the November internationals, I think, at home, trying to play them and expose them more as well. But there is every chance that there's going to be changes. You hope, you know, you would hope that, look, I think what constitutes success here really for me is not getting a 60-point drubbing that happened in 2012. I'm not suggesting it will happen, but things can fall asunder pretty quickly down here if you're not on the money, and if you are struggling, a couple of key players are missing. And I think that would be the worst thing that happened, that we would get a comprehensive beating. It could happen still, but I think even if you don't, obviously winning a test would constitute brilliant return. But if you're not going to win any of the test games, that you're thereabouts, you're knocking on the door, you're asking questions, and you're not being completely dominated, because for any side to come here, it's always a challenge. So I think to avoid that situation of getting a comprehensive beating and being really competitive, and I think if Ireland are in the mix in any of the 3 tests, I think they're capable of winning it, and they're good enough. And I think they've got to find that little bit of ignition again that they showed us this year. They were brilliant in November, not just in the New Zealand game, but Japan and Argentina. Their execution was superb. We saw some really good moments in the Six Nations as well. So I think they can draw on that confidence, and hopefully they can, and they can find a performance here for Saturday.
Okay.
Because I think they need to start well for themselves mentally.
Give us your prediction.
Oh, my prediction. I think New Zealand will win the game. So I think it's going to be very difficult for Ireland, but there's a little part of me thinks that you know, Ireland will get a performance here on Saturday and really step up. But when you look at the New Zealand team and you look at the experience and even some of the new players that are coming in, some of them are very, very hard to stop. So I think New Zealand should win this game.
Yeah. When are we expecting you to find a bag, Quinny, or is that just is this just like absolutely
forever, 3 weeks, 3? Yeah.
God only knows. There's some of the other some of the other journalists I was chatting to, their bags are 3-4 days. They're scrambling looking for clothes, so I'm going to have to raid Paul's wardrobe again in the morning, maybe, because he has free laundry here anyway, so he can keep getting the stuff cleaned. I can just keep sneaking into his room, robbing his clothes. No, hopefully I'll have a bag in the morning. I need it badly, or else I'll have to go out and you know, replace stuff and buy a big coat for the match on Saturday and stuff like that. There's a few things I could really do with, and there's obviously things you can go out and pick up, socks and underwear and stuff like that. That's easy enough, but anyway, hopefully it comes tomorrow.
Is the weather awful?
No, it's not bad at all. No, it was good. It was good today. It was nice and pleasant and sunny. Probably not the warmest, but very pleasant anyway. So right. I think there's going to be a few showers at the weekend. So we'll see, but all good so far.
All right, Quinny, we'll catch up with you on Monday. Thanks a million. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, lads.
It's Alan Quinlan live from New Zealand in Paul O'Connell's clothes.